Welcome back to another one of our Baylor Advancement interview series. We're thrilled that you are joining us today. I'm excited to get to ask some questions of our latest guest. Today we're joined by Greg Davis. He is our Associate Vice President for Development here at Baylor, and we're thrilled to have you. Greg, welcome.
Thank you very much, Josh. Appreciate you actually letting me join you.
Well, this is, as we've talked about some of the other videos, really strange times, but if we can have some form of face-to-face interaction, we're going to take it, right? That's as exciting as we can do, for sure.
I love it. I love it.
Well, Greg, would you share a little bit with folks who might not know who you are, your background, what your role is on the development team, and a little bit of who you are?
Yeah, you bet. I came to Baylor in '99 as a transfer student athlete, and that was really my first introduction to Baylor. And with the exception of 1 year that I spent away from Baylor, I've been employed or a student at Baylor ever since. And so roughly 20 years of involvement at Baylor, and for the last 10 of those years, I've been in development and fundraising. And so family-wise, met my wife at Baylor, who was also a student athlete, and we've got an 11-year-old, 8-year-old, and 7-year-old who certainly love Baylor and may not actually realize there are other universities at this stage of their life. So we love it. Baylor's been life-changing for us, and it's an honor to be able to serve in the role that I'm in.
Well, we sure appreciate it and appreciate everything that you do, leading our development team, fundraising for the university, especially going forward. These are times where philanthropy and giving to the school are going to be really important as we seek to continue making and supporting Baylor as best we can, for sure. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's philanthropy is one of those things that we have to lean into. Baylor University, for it to excel into the future, currently and into the future, is tied closely to the generous folks that do support us.
That's great. Well, Greg, just have a couple questions for you today. If you could, we'd love for you to share with us, what does your role, two ways, right? What does your role usually look like at Baylor, leading out our development team? And then how has it kind of changed in the middle of this pandemic we're in?
Yeah, well, the good thing is no day's alike, and that was true before, and it's true now. But as we talk to our team, my role is serve on our management team, and a lot of what our discussion is about is how do we engage Baylor constituents the best, our alums, our parents, our friends, and then more specifically, what my role looks like is focused very specifically around our donor engagement. I oversee our field staff that gets out and travels. Obviously, Josh, you know what that's like as someone who excels in this space. But we talk about how do we create great philanthropic agendas and strategies and programs that donors can understand, that donors can see the impact that they're making. And so managing a team that generally love being around people, this post-COVID-19 kind of lockdown is really has changed the game a bit, but it's also opened our eyes to some different forms of communication, just like what we're doing now. But as social beings, there's an itch, certainly, I think, for our whole team of hey, we love being around people and we love talking about Baylor. And so even though we have a computer screen in front of us and there's that, yes, I can see your face and all those things, it's hard to replicate what sitting down across from somebody really looks like. And so I'm looking forward to getting on the other end of that, and hopefully that'll be sooner than later.
Oh man, I agree. I'm just looking forward to sitting down in a coffee shop again, across from somebody, right? And doing that. That'll be good. So, what I'm hearing you say, and I think what all of our constituents around the country know is that our mission is not ended, right? We're still supporting the university as best we can. And, we're still raising money for the school and supporting the school. And so thought you might be able to speak to maybe some of our biggest philanthropic needs at this time in Baylor's history. What are those needs right now?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Baylor is such a large organization, and so there's needs all the way across the board. Something that's very specific to what we're doing right now is a response to a prompting from President Livingston, which was we have students that are suffering, they're struggling, or when we chose to do this lockdown, families were impacted significantly. And so a lot of what our team is trying to do right now is how do we give emergency support to students. And so I think it was March 26th when President Livingstone said, I want to dedicate my President's Excellence Fund specifically to go to student needs. And so money in, money out. And so within a couple of weeks, students applied, described their hardships, what they're going through, the situations they're in. And within a couple of weeks, had already awarded just over $1.5 million to students, and at really no more than about $1,000 per student clip. And so heartbreaking stories of the situations our students come from or in a lot of cases, borrowing a laptop from the library was their laptop. And so now when you take that from them, they've got to figure out how to do that. And so it's amazing to see how our donors respond. Bigger picture, maybe more longer term on just fundraising goals. We look at fundraising in really three primary tranches, and that's endowment, which is a long-term sustainable investment perpetuity type gift. We look at capital, which is construction related, and then we look at really current needs, and that's dollars coming in and immediately being applied towards programs or student scholarships or things like that. And so the biggest priorities on the endowment front is how do we fuel the academic strategic plan called Illuminate, which is aimed to take Baylor to new heights and greater relevance in the research space and impact in society. And a lot of that endowment support is for faculty needs. We had an amazing gift last year that we announced, creating a matching chair program for endowment, which has been met with an amazing donor response to where one-for-one dollars were matched and continuing forward still are for very significant commitments. And then endowed scholarships will always be incredibly important to our students as we continue to take care of their needs. And then we have two really cool capital projects, Welcome Center and a basketball facility that already have received lead gifts, and we'll continue to try to raise more money to help support those. And so the beauty of what a Baylor University is there's a place for anybody to play a role if they have that desire. And so that's what makes working at Baylor a lot of fun.
Man, that's wonderful. I mean, I think you'd echo this. There are a lot of exciting projects in the future for Baylor, exciting needs and opportunities for the university. And but at the end of the day, one of the things I love about this job, and I think you'd agree, is that we get to really serve students. And so, it's been exciting to really try to meet the needs of these students who are in the midst of incredible economic hardship in this pandemic, and to help them during that. So it's kind of on several different fronts. It's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And we get to witness that in a way where donors, big and small, you get to be a conduit to help them exercise a muscle of generosity that grows, that gets stronger, but has real meaning on what the dollars go do as we look to really be the preeminent Christian university that embarks on really impactful research and scholarship and producing the next generation of great leaders.
You made a great point there, Greg, where it doesn't really matter if obviously there's all kind of great gifts that are given, but we would love for just more and more folks to be able to participate in philanthropic giving at Baylor. And I don't know if you'd speak to that at all, but great opportunities and different ways to give. We'd love to see as many as possible, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We launched a campaign. We're currently in a comprehensive campaign that impacts the entire campus, and it's a significant goal. We've never launched something of such magnitude, but it's a $1.1 billion goal over about a 7-year window. And so we've got 2 years left in the public phase. And so when we launch a campaign like that, we have two really main metrics we're looking for, and that's total dollars raised and that's looking at participation of our donor count. How many people were willing to invest in Baylor's future? And so those are key metrics. Alumni participation for all those alums that we work with, including Baylor in annual philanthropic decision making is valuable to the university, not only in obviously funds making a difference at any level, but also in just how we are measured in a grander scale against other universities. Participation or donor count helps to tell a story of how valued you are as an institution, what impact you have on people. And so those are key metrics that at the end of the day get stacked up not only for how we view ourselves, but how we are viewed by others in the space of higher education.
Right. And you would still say giving's been really strong this year on a general front, right? I mean, we've seen some great success on that level. We have.
Baylor Connected supporters blow me away at just the selflessness, the commitment to what Baylor's mission is and what we're trying to accomplish. And when we shut down right around mid to late March and did this whole work from home deal, we were on pace for our second highest fundraising year in all time. And our fiscal year ends, as you know, May 31st. So we were in the last quarter of the year. And so the initial reaction is, well, I guess this is about where we'll stop. And we'll kind of trickle in crawl into the finish line. And, again, going back to just how incredible like-minded donors are and what Baylor's mission is, we've actually had a wonderful last couple of months of just watching God work around us of like, where did that conversation come from? And what a blessing it is for the future of Baylor. So we are still targeting a second highest fundraising year in Baylor's history, which is incredible. But it doesn't happen without a lot of really special people that align with what Baylor's objectives are.
Right. No, I love that. And we've said it many times, I pinch myself because I get to talk to people about supporting the institution and doing some great things there. And it's pretty exciting. That's for sure.
Well, you're a product of it. Your life was just like mine. Your life was impacted significantly as a student in these formative years. And you just know in your heart that there are other people, young people on our campus that are having that same life-changing experience. And I just don't know that that's something that's offered at other places in the world. And so we have a really, really special role in front of us for sure.
Would never have been at Baylor without incredible donors who made it possible for me. So
that's right. I was a scholarship recipient myself.
Absolutely. I got a couple more questions for you. I did not prepare you for this one though. You ready? Okay. So my question is, what are you watching during this stay-at-home time? I've been stuck on the Michael Jordan documentary on ESPN. I've watched a lot of that. Too much Netflix. Anything in particular you're watching during this time?
The Michael Jordan documentary, 100%. I'm all about that. Being a former basketball player and just a huge fan of his and the sport in general. But we introduced my kids to Back to the Future. So each of the last 3 nights, we actually watched Back to the Future 1, 2, and then 3. And so they're blown away. And if you know, in Back to the Future 2, it goes all the way up to 2015. And it's like mind blowing. And so my kids were one part scared and one part so entrenched in what's going on there. But that has been a bonus of this whole work at home deal is the ability to pop out, see the kids, and spend a little bit of time with them before hopping into the next type of meeting. But yeah, we're enjoying watching old sports as we see that some in this day in sports history, this random game between this team and that team, and I find myself captivated by it.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Well, Greg, last question. How can we, I'm an alumni, how can we as alumni or friends of the school, parents, whatever it looks like, what are some of the ways that we can be praying for you specifically and for the development team in this time?
Yeah. I think for me specifically, my wife and kids aren't used to me being home this much. So pray that I can be a light for them and have, with all the things that we're weighing out, to be patient and to be a great contributor and all those things, just as a father and a husband. And so that's a starting place. And as it relates to just work and how we approach work, just prayers that we apply the right level of discernment as we evaluate how to roll back into something that feels more normal on for our team, and that's about safety, but it's also about people for their own livelihood need to be in a position to have success and to produce and to do all those wonderful things. And then just as it relates for our division and our team, that we allowed this experience right now to not be one that tears us down and frustrates us or depresses us, but rather that it's an environment that we discover new efficiencies and programming that will carry us forward. And so prayers that we're patient and diligent and really working through this process appropriately.
That's wonderful. Greg, I so appreciate you taking the time, like I've said today. And I know that you're very busy, even in these strange times. So thank you for being with us and for everything you do.
Absolutely. Appreciate you as well. And grateful for the chance to visit with you today. And we'll close with a Sick and Bears.
Sick and Bears. Thanks, Greg.